He was just a quiet single dad running a private yacht kitchen off the Miami coast, invisible to the wealthy guests he served, until a Mexican cartel stormed aboard and dragged the tech billionaire into the night. No one knew about his past. No one expected what he'd do next. But when his daughter whispered, "Dad, shouldn't we help her?" everything changed. What happened over the next 72 hours would expose a decade-old vendetta, uncover corruption at the highest levels, and ignite a connection neither of them saw coming. This isn't just a rescue mission. It's a story about sacrifice, redemption, and the lethal precision of a man who traded war for whisks, but never forgot how to fight. When the ocean turned red and bullets replaced champagne corks, one father proved that some skills never fade. They just wait for the right moment to resurface. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you. Make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The sun hung low over Biscayne Bay, casting golden light across the turquoise water like liquid amber. Yachts bobbed gently in their slips at the exclusive Coral Gables marina, their white hulls gleaming against the Miami skyline. Among them, the Serafina stood out, a 120-foot custom vessel with sleek lines and tinted windows that reflected nothing but money and power. On the aft deck, Tyler Vaughn wiped down the marble countertop of the outdoor galley, his movements precise and unhurried. At 36, he had the kind of face that made people look twice. Strong jaw, deep-set hazel eyes, and a scar that traced from his left temple into his hairline. His dark hair was cropped short, his chef's whites crisp despite the humidity. He moved through the galley with the efficiency of someone who understood both discipline and artistry. To the guests sipping Dom Perignon on the sun deck above. Tyler was just the private chef, the hired help who appeared with perfectly seared scallops and disappeared into the background. They didn't ask questions. They didn't care that his knife skills were too sharp, his situational awareness too acute, or that his eyes scanned every new face that boarded the yacht with the precision of someone trained to identify threats. They didn't know. And that was exactly how Tyler preferred it. Inside the main salon, Josie Warren stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, phone pressed to her ear, her free hand gesturing as she spoke. At 41, she was the founder and CEO of Helix Dynamics, a cybersecurity firm that had just secured a $3 billion government contract. Her name was synonymous with innovation, with breaking glass ceilings, with being untouchable. She wore a white linen suit that somehow remained unwrinkled despite the heat, her dark hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. Diamond studs glinted at her ears, understated but unmistakably expensive. She was beautiful in the way powerful women often are, not because of softness, but because of the sharpness in her gaze, the refusal to apologize for taking up space. "I don't care what the board thinks," she said into the phone, her voice cool and controlled. "The encryption protocol stays. If they want to vote me out, they can try." She ended the call and exhaled, shoulders dropping just slightly. For a moment, the armor cracked. Then she straightened, smoothed her jacket, and turned toward the galley. Tyler was plating the appetizers, microgreens arranged with tweezers, edible flowers placed with the care of someone who understood that presentation mattered. He didn't look up when she approached. "The tuna tartare looks incredible," Josie said. "Thank you, Ms. Warren. You can call me Josie. We've been at sea for 3 days. I think we're past formalities." Tyler glanced up, his expression neutral. "Josie, then." She leaned against the counter, studying him. "You don't talk much. I'm here to cook, not entertain." "Fair enough." She paused. "But you're not like the other chefs I've hired. You move like someone who's done more than just work in kitchens." Tyler's hands stilled for just a fraction of a second. Then he resumed plating. "I've had different jobs." "Like what?" "Nothing interesting." Josie smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You're very good at deflecting." And you're very good at asking questions. Occupational hazard. She picked up a piece of tuna with her fingers and tasted it. Her eyes closed briefly. God, that's good. Tyler allowed himself a small smile. Glad you approve. Before Josie could respond, a small voice called from the stairwell. Dad, can I come up now? Tyler's entire demeanor shifted, softened. Yeah, Bug. Come on up. A 10-year-old girl emerged, her curly brown hair pulled into two messy buns, freckles scattered across her nose. She wore denim shorts and a tank top with a cartoon octopus on it. Her name was Aria, and she was the only thing in Tyler's life that mattered more than survival. I finished my math, she announced, holding up a workbook. All of it. Even the word problems. That's my girl. Tyler wiped his hands and high-fived her. You hungry? Starving. Aria climbed onto one of the high stools and swung her legs. Then she noticed Josie. Oh, hi. Josie's expression softened in a way it hadn't all day. Hi there. You must be Aria. Yep, you're the boss lady, right? I suppose I am. My dad says you run the whole boat. Technically, I own it, Josie said, amused. But your dad runs the kitchen, which is arguably more important. Aria grinned. He makes the best pancakes. Like in the world. I'll have to try them sometime. Tyler set a plate in front of Aria, grilled cheese cut into triangles with a side of fruit. Eat, then you can watch a movie before bed. Can I pick? As long as it's not the one about the singing cats again. Aria giggled and bit into her sandwich. Josie watched the exchange with something unreadable in her eyes, a flicker of longing, maybe, or regret. You're good with her, Josie said quietly. Tyler met her gaze. She's all I've got. There was weight in those words, a history that Josie could sense but not see. She didn't push. Instead, she nodded and stepped back. I'll let you two have dinner. Thank you again for the food. Anytime. As Josie walked away, Aria whispered, She seems sad. Tyler glanced toward the salon, where Josie had returned to her phone, her silhouette framed by the fading light. Yeah, he said. She does. Later that night, after Aria had fallen asleep in the small cabin they shared below deck, Tyler stood on the crew deck, arms crossed, staring at the horizon. The marina was quiet, the only sounds the gentle lap of water against the hull and the distant hum of the city. He didn't like being this exposed. Didn't like the open water, the lack of exits, the way the yacht was a floating target for anyone who wanted to make a statement. But the pay was good, and Aria needed stability. After years of bouncing between jobs, between cities, between identities, Tyler had finally found something that worked. He just hoped it would last. Above him. On the main deck, Josie stood alone by the railing, a glass of wine in her hand. She looked out at the same horizon, thinking about board meetings and betrayals, about the loneliness that came with being the smartest person in every room. She didn't notice the two men in a black speedboat idling 200 yards offshore. Watching through night vision binoculars, she didn't see the third man on the dock, pretending to check his phone while taking photos of the yacht security system. But Tyler did. His instincts, honed over a decade in the teams, prickled. He scanned the marina slowly, methodically. The speedboat's engine was too quiet. The man on the dock had been there too long. And the yacht's usual security detail, 2 ex-cops who worked nights, were nowhere to be seen. Tyler's jaw tightened. Something was wrong. The next morning came soft and warm. The kind of Florida dawn that made people forget the world had edges. Tyler was already awake at 5 a.m., as he had been every morning for the past 15 years. Old habits from his time as a Navy SEAL didn't fade. They just became routine. He moved through the galley in the pre-dawn silence, prepping ingredients for breakfast, dicing bell peppers, whisking eggs, slicing fresh fruit into perfect segments. The rhythm of it calmed him, the precision, the control. In the kitchen, there were no variables he couldn't manage. No chaos he couldn't contain. Arya shuffled in around 6:30, rubbing her eyes, her hair a wild halo around her face. "Morning, Dad." "Morning, Bug." Tyler set a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of her. "Sleep okay?" "Yeah, I dreamed about dolphins." "Good dream?" "The best." She took a bite and grinned. "These eggs are so good. You should open a restaurant." Tyler smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Maybe someday. You always say that, because it's true." Arya studied him with the unsettling perceptiveness that kids sometimes have. "Are you worried about something?" Tyler paused, his hand stilling over the cutting board. "Why do you ask?" "You have that face. The one you make when you think something bad might happen." He crossed to her and ruffled her hair gently. "I'm just being careful. That's my job. Your job is to cook." "My job," he corrected, "is to keep you safe. Cooking just pays for it." Arya frowned. "Is someone trying to hurt us?" "No," Tyler said firmly. "And they won't, I promise." She nodded, trusting him in the absolute way that only a kid could. It terrified him sometimes, how much faith she had in him, how much responsibility rested on his shoulders. Tyler's life hadn't always been this way. Once, he'd been part of something bigger, SEAL Team 7, operating in the darkest corners of the world. He'd been good at it, maybe too good. But then Arya's mother, his high school sweetheart, had died in a car accident when Arya was just 2 years old. Suddenly, the missions didn't matter. The medals didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the little girl who needed him. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. So he'd left. Walked away from the only life he'd known and learned to cook. Learned to blend in. Learned to be ordinary, except he wasn't ordinary. And deep down, he knew it. By 9 a.m., the yacht was alive with activity. Josie's assistant, a sharp young woman named Hannah Clark, was coordinating schedules. The boat's captain, an older man with silver hair named Dean Foster, was checking navigation systems. And Josie herself was on the sun deck, taking a video call with her board of directors. Tyler brought up a tray of fresh pastries and coffee, setting it down quietly on the side table. "Thank you," Josie mouthed, not breaking from her call. He nodded and started to leave. But she held up a finger. "Wait." Tyler stood by the railing, arms crossed, scanning the marina out of habit. The speedboat from last night was gone, but something still felt off. The usual morning fishermen weren't at their spots. The security guards had changed shifts twice in one night, which never happened. Josie ended her call and exhaled sharply. "Sorry about that. My board thinks I'm being reckless with the new encryption launch." "Are you?" Tyler asked. She laughed, surprised. "Probably. But being safe never changed the world. Being dead doesn't change it either." Josie tilted her head, studying him. "You're full of surprises, Tyler Vaughn. Just practical." "No," she said. "You're careful. There's a difference." She sipped her coffee. "How long have you been a chef?" 7 years. "And before that?" Tyler's expression didn't change. "Different work." "You keep saying that. But you never say what. Because it doesn't matter anymore." Josie leaned back in her chair. "I've built my career on reading people. It's how I've survived this long. And when I look at you, I don't see a chef. I see someone who's done things most people can't imagine." Tyler met her gaze, and for a moment, the mask slipped. She saw something in his eyes, something cold and competent and dangerous. Then it was gone. "Everyone's got a past," he said quietly. "Not everyone wants to talk about it. Fair enough." Josie finished her coffee. "But if you ever want to, I'm a good listener." Tyler didn't respond. Instead, He picked up the tray and headed back to the galley. But as he walked away, he felt her eyes on him, curious and unrelenting. Down in the cabin, Arya was sprawled on her bunk, reading a graphic novel. Tyler sat beside her, and she immediately curled into his side. "Dad?" "Yeah, Bug?" "Do you think Ms. Warren is lonely?" Tyler blinked. "What makes you say that?" "She's always on the phone. And she eats by herself. And yesterday, when I asked her if she had kids, she looked really sad." Tyler's chest tightened. "Some people are alone because they choose to be. Do you think she chose it?" He thought about Josie, about the walls she'd built, the armor she wore. "I don't know." Arya looked up at him. "Maybe she just needs a friend." Tyler kissed the top of her head. "Maybe." That afternoon, Tyler was cleaning up the lunch service when Josie appeared in the galley doorway. She looked different, more relaxed. She'd changed into linen pants and a loose blouse, her hair down for the first time since they'd set sail. "Hey," she said. "Do you have a minute?" "Sure." She stepped inside, glancing around at the gleaming surfaces, the organized spice racks, the precision of everything. "This is your domain, huh?" "It's where I'm most comfortable. I get that." She leaned against the counter. "I wanted to thank you. For breakfast, for lunch, for all of it. You're incredibly talented. Just doing my job." "No," Josie said. "You're doing more than that. You're making this trip bearable." She hesitated. "I don't have a lot of people I can trust. But I think I trust you." Tyler's jaw tightened. "You shouldn't trust anyone too quickly." "I know. But I'm tired of being suspicious all the time." Before Tyler could respond, Arya appeared in the doorway. "Dad, can we go swimming later?" "Maybe," Tyler said. "If the water's calm." Arya looked at Josie. "Do you want to come?" Josie smiled, a real smile this time. "I'd like that." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, the three of them stood on the aft deck. Arya was pointing at seagulls, Josie was laughing at something the girl said, and Tyler was watching both of them with an expression he couldn't quite name. For a moment, it felt like peace, but 200 yards away, hidden in the cabin of a fishing trawler, 5 men were loading weapons and checking their watches. The peace wouldn't last. The evening came on like velvet, soft and deceptive. The marina lights blinked on one by one, reflecting off the water in shimmering columns. The Serafina rocked gently in her slip, and most of the crew had gone ashore for the night, leaving only Tyler, Arya, the captain, and Josie aboard. Josie had insisted on staying. She had work to do, calls to make, a presentation to finalize for a congressional hearing the following week. Tyler had advised against it. Too isolated, too predictable. But Josie Warren didn't take advice easily. Tyler was cleaning the galley after dinner, his movements automatic, but his mind elsewhere. The unease from the night before hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown sharper, more insistent. He'd done 3 perimeter checks that day, each one revealing small inconsistencies. The dock cameras were angled wrong. The harbor patrol boat that usually circled every 2 hours hadn't shown up since noon. And earlier, he'd seen a man in a maintenance uniform photographing the yacht's hull from a kayak, alone. Each detail meant nothing. Together, they painted a picture Tyler knew too well. He dried his hands and walked to the small cabin where Arya was curled up on her bunk, headphones on, watching a movie on her tablet. Tyler tapped her shoulder gently. She pulled out one earbud. "What's up?" "I need you to do something for me, Bug." Her eyes narrowed. She knew that tone. "Are we in trouble?" "No, but I need you to be smart tonight, okay?" Arya sat up, fully alert now. "What's happening?" Tyler crouched to her level, his voice calm but firm. "I don't know yet. Maybe nothing. But if I tell you to hide, you hide. If I tell you to run, you run. No questions, no arguments. Understood? Arya's face went pale, but she nodded. Understood, good girl. He pulled a small waterproof pouch from under his bunk and pressed it into her hands. This has a phone, some cash, and a note with a number. If something happens and I'm not with you, you call that number. A man named Nathan Scott will answer. Tell him where you are, and he'll come get you. Dad, you're scaring me. Tyler cupped her face gently. I'm not going anywhere. This is just in case. Like a fire drill. She nodded again, clutching the pouch to her chest. Okay. I love you, Bug. I love you too. Tyler kissed her forehead and stood. He slipped his field jacket on over his t-shirt, the one with the faded insignia patch he'd never removed. Then he clipped a small blade to his belt, hidden beneath the fabric. Old habits. He found Captain Foster on the bridge, reviewing charts. The older man looked up and frowned. You look tense, Vaughn. Something's off tonight. You've been saying that for 2 days, and I've been right for 2 days. Tyler crossed his arms. When's the last time you saw Harbor Patrol? Foster checked his radio log. This morning, early, and the security detail? Called in sick. Both of them. Tyler's jaw tightened. At the same time? Yeah, weird, I know. But Miss Warren didn't want replacements. Said she wanted privacy. That was a mistake. Foster bristled. You want to tell her that? No, Tyler said. I want you to start the engines, quietly. What? Get us ready to move. Don't make it obvious. Just be ready. Foster studied him. You really think something's going to happen? I think we need to be prepared if it does. Foster hesitated, then nodded. All right. But if this is nothing, you're buying the first round when we dock. Deal. Tyler climbed the stairs to the main deck. Josie was in the salon, laptop open, papers scattered across the table. She looked up when he entered. Everything okay? She asked. I need you to pack a bag. She blinked. Excuse me? Just essentials. Passport, phone, charger. Do it now. Tyler, what's going on? Maybe nothing. But I'd rather you be ready. Josie closed her laptop slowly. You're serious, very. She searched his face, and whatever she saw there convinced her. Okay, give me 5 minutes. Make it 3. As she disappeared into her stateroom, Tyler moved to the aft deck. The marina was quiet, almost too quiet. No music from neighboring yachts. No laughter from the dockside restaurants. Just the lap of water and the distant hum of traffic. Then he saw it. A black SUV pulling into the parking lot with its headlights off. Then another. Then a third. Men stepped out, 6 of them, dressed in dark clothing, moving with purpose. They didn't look like tourists. They looked like operators. Tyler's pulse didn't spike. It steadied. His breathing slowed. Muscle memory took over. He pulled out his phone and texted Captain Foster. NO. The yacht's engines rumbled to life. The men on the dock heard it. They started running. Tyler turned and sprinted back inside. Josie, we're leaving. She emerged from her stateroom, bag in hand, eyes wide. What's happening? No time, stay behind me. What's happening? No time, stay behind me. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward the bridge. But before they reached the stairs, the salon's glass door exploded inward. 2 men in tactical gear burst through, weapons drawn, not guns, but tasers and batons. They wanted her alive. Tyler shoved Josie behind him and met the first man head-on. The attacker swung the baton at Tyler's head. Tyler ducked, caught the man's wrist, and twisted hard. The bone snapped with a wet crack. The man screamed. Tyler drove his elbow into the man's throat, collapsing his windpipe, and let him drop. The second attacker fired the taser. Tyler sidestepped, the prongs missing by inches. He closed the distance in 2 strides, grabbed the taser from the man's hand, and jammed it into his ribs. The man convulsed and fell. Josie stared, frozen. "What the hell? Move!" Tyler grabbed her hand and dragged her toward the bridge. They made it halfway up the stairs when 3 more men boarded from the port side. Rappelling from a speedboat, Captain Foster appeared at the top of the stairs, a flare gun in his hand. "Get her out of here." Tyler nodded and reversed direction, pulling Josie back down toward the crew quarters. Behind them, Foster fired the flare gun. The salon filled with red light and smoke. "Where's Aria?" Josie gasped. "Safe. I need to keep you safe too." They reached the narrow passageway leading to the crew deck. Tyler stopped, his head tilted, listening. Footsteps. Coming from below. They were surrounded. Tyler's mind raced. The yacht was compromised. The dock was blocked. The only way out was the water. He turned to Josie. "Can you swim?" "Yes, but..." "Good, we're going overboard. Are you insane?" "Trust me." Before she could argue, the passageway door burst open. A man lunged at Josie. Tyler intercepted him, driving his fist into the man's solar plexus. The attacker doubled over. Tyler grabbed the back of his head and slammed it into the wall. Once, twice. The man went limp, but more were coming. Tyler pulled Josie onto the aft deck. The speedboat was still there, its engine idling. 2 men stood guard on the dock. Tyler scanned the water. 50 yards to the neighboring yacht. 100 to the seawall. Too far with Josie in tow. Then he heard it, Aria's voice, small and terrified. "Dad!" His blood turned to ice. One of the men was holding her. His hand clamped over her mouth, dragging her toward the SUV. Tyler's vision tunneled. The world narrowed to a single point, his daughter. Josie grabbed his arm. "Tyler." He shook her off and vaulted over the railing, landing on the dock in a crouch. The 2 guards turned, reaching for their weapons. Tyler didn't give them the chance. He crossed the distance in seconds, disarming the first man with a savage wrist lock and using the stolen baton to strike the second across the temple. Both men dropped, but the man holding Aria was already at the SUV. Shoving her inside, Tyler ran behind him. Josie screamed. He glanced back just in time to see 2 men grab her, one on each arm. Dragging her off the yacht. The choice split him in half, his daughter, or the woman who'd trusted him. Time slowed. Then Tyler made the only choice he could. He turned toward Josie. Tyler's decision was instantaneous, brutal, and calculated. He couldn't save both. Not yet. But he could buy time. He sprinted toward Josie, his body moving with the lethal efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times, in 1,000 different hellholes. The 2 men dragging her toward the second SUV didn't see him coming until it was too late. Tyler hit the first man like a freight train, shoulder driving into his ribs with enough force to crack bone. The man released Josie and stumbled backward, gasping. Tyler followed through with an elbow strike to the jaw that sent teeth flying. The man collapsed. The second attacker was smarter. He released Josie and drew a knife, a wicked 8-inch blade that caught the marina lights. He lunged. Tyler sidestepped, caught the man's wrist mid-thrust, and twisted. The knife clattered to the pavement. Tyler drove his knee into the man's gut, then swept his legs. The attacker went down hard, and Tyler's boot connected with his temple. Silenced. Josie stood frozen, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Tyler, get behind the piling, now." She obeyed without question, ducking behind one of the thick wooden posts that supported the dock. Tyler scanned the parking lot. The SUV with Aria was still there, engine running, but the driver was on his phone. Calling for backup, probably. Or confirming the grab. Tyler had maybe 30 seconds. He ran low and fast, using the parked cars as cover. The driver didn't see him until Tyler was 3 feet away. By then, it was over. Tyler yanked the door open, grabbed the driver by his collar, and slammed his head into the steering wheel. Once, twice. The man went limp. Tyler, threw the driver onto the pavement, and looked into the back seat. Empty. His heart stopped. "Aria!" he shouted, his voice cracking for the first time that night. Then he heard it. A muffled cry from the third SUV, already pulling out of the parking lot. Tires screeching. Tyler's mind went cold. Tactical. He couldn't catch them on foot. He needed a vehicle. He turned back to the marina. Captain Foster's truck was parked near the gate, an old Ford Ranger with the keys probably still in the ignition. Tyler sprinted toward it, ignoring the shouts behind him. Two more men emerged from the yacht, weapons drawn. They opened fire, not tasers this time. Real bullets. Tyler dove behind a concrete planter as rounds sparked off the pavement. He counted the shots. 6, 7, 8. Semi-automatic pistols, probably Glocks. Standard cartel issue. He waited for the pause, that half second when shooters reassess. Then he moved. He rolled out from cover, grabbed a loose dock cleat, a heavy iron fixture, and hurled it at the nearest shooter. It connected with the man's face in a spray of blood. The second shooter turned, but Tyler was already on him, disarming him with a joint lock that left the man screaming on the ground. Tyler took the gun. A Glock 19, checked the magazine, and fired 3 rounds into the yacht's fuel line. Not to blow it up, not yet, but to create chaos. Gasoline began pooling on the deck. He pocketed the weapon and ran for the truck. The keys were in the ignition. Thank God for small-town habits, even in Miami. Tyler fired up the engine and slammed the gas pedal. The truck roared out of the parking lot, tires smoking. The SUV with Aria was a quarter-mile ahead, weaving through late-night traffic on Brickell Avenue. Tyler pushed the Ranger to 80, then 90, dodging cars and blowing through red lights. Horns blared. Headlights flashed. He didn't care. His daughter was in that vehicle. The SUV turned sharply onto a side street, heading toward the industrial district near the port. Warehouses, shipping containers. No witnesses. Perfect for a handoff. Tyler followed, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. The SUV ran another light. A sedan swerved to avoid it and clipped a light pole. Tyler barely registered it. His world had narrowed to a single objective: get Aria back. The SUV skidded into an alley between 2 warehouses. Tyler followed without hesitation. The narrow space barely fit the truck. Sparks flew as the side mirrors scraped against corrugated metal walls. Ahead, the SUV stopped. 4 men jumped out. One of them was dragging Aria, her hands zip-tied, her mouth taped. Tyler hit the brakes. The truck screeched to a halt 20 feet away. He kicked the door open and stepped out, the Glock in his hand. "Let her go," he said, his voice flat and cold. The man holding Aria, tall, muscular, with a snake tattoo crawling up his neck, laughed. "You got balls, chef. But you're outnumbered. I don't care. You should." Snake Tattoo pressed a gun to Aria's head. "Drop your weapon or the kid dies." Tyler's finger tightened on the trigger. He could make the shot. 70% chance of hitting Snake Tattoo before he could pull his own trigger. But 70% wasn't good enough. Not with Aria's life on the line. He lowered the Glock. "Smart man," Snake Tattoo said. "Now kick it over here." Tyler complied, sliding the weapon across the pavement. It stopped at Snake Tattoo's feet. "Good. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk away. Forget you saw anything. Forget the girl. And maybe, just maybe, we'll let her live." Tyler's eyes locked on Aria. She was terrified, tears streaming down her face, but she wasn't panicking. She was watching him. Waiting for the signal, he gave it, a subtle nod. The one they'd practiced 100 times during their fire drills. Aria went limp, deadweight in Snake Tattoo's arms. He cursed, his grip loosening for just a second. That was all Tyler needed. He moved. Tyler closed the distance in 3 strides, faster than Snake Tattoo could react. He grabbed the man's gun hand and twisted it upward. The weapon discharged, the bullet ricocheting off metal. Tyler drove his forehead into Snake Tattoo's nose, shattering it. Blood exploded. The man released Aria, and Tyler shoved her behind him. The other 3 men drew their weapons. Tyler grabbed Snake Tattoo's gun and fired twice. 2 men dropped. The third dove behind the SUV. Tyler pulled Aria to the truck. "Get in, lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me. Dad, now Aria." She ran. Tyler turned back to face the remaining attacker. The man leaned out from behind the SUV and fired. Tyler felt the bullet graze his shoulder, a hotline of pain. He ignored it and returned fire, 3 controlled bursts. The man fell. Tyler walked over and kicked the weapons away from the bodies. Then he checked pulses. 2 dead, 1 unconscious. Snake Tattoo was crawling toward the alley exit, leaving a blood trail. Tyler stepped on his back, pinning him down. "Who sent you?" Snake Tattoo spat blood. "Go to hell." Tyler pressed his boot down harder. "Who sent you?" His boot down harder. "Who sent you?" "You don't know who you're messing with, man. This is bigger than you. Bigger than that tech bitch. You should have walked away. Last chance. Who sent you?" Snake Tattoo laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. "Ella Scorpion. And he's going to gut you for this." Tyler pulled out his phone and dialed 911. He gave the dispatcher the location and hung up. Then he walked back to the truck. Aria was in the passenger seat, shaking but alive. He opened the door and pulled her into his arms. "You okay, bug?" She nodded against his chest. "I was so scared." "I know. But you did great. You were so brave. Are they going to come back?" Tyler's jaw tightened. "Not for you. I promise." Sirens wailed in the distance. Tyler pulled the tape off Aria's mouth and cut the zip ties with his pocket knife. Then he started the truck and drove out of the alley, heading back toward the marina. They had Josie, and Tyler knew exactly what he had to do next. The marina was a war zone. Police cars blocked every entrance, their lights painting the night in red and blue. Ambulances lined the dock. Crime scene tape cordoned off the Serafina, which sat listing slightly in the water, fuel still leaking from the ruptured line. Tyler pulled the truck into a side street 3 blocks away and killed the engine. His shoulder throbbed where the bullet had grazed him, but it was superficial. He'd had worse. Aria sat beside him, wrapped in his jacket, her face pale but composed. She'd stopped shaking about 10 minutes ago. "What do we do now?" she asked quietly. Tyler stared through the windshield at the flashing lights. "We tell the truth. Most of it anyway. What about Ms. Warren?" "I'm going to get her back." "How?" "I don't know yet." He turned to her. "But first, I need to make sure you're safe." "Really safe." He pulled out his phone and dialed the number he'd given Aria earlier. It rang twice before a gruff voice answered. "Vaughn. Didn't expect to hear from you. Nathan. I need a favor." Nathan Scott had been Tyler's commanding officer during his last tour. A hard man, fair but uncompromising, with a network that stretched from Langley to the criminal underworld. If anyone could keep Aria safe, it was him. "What kind of favor?" Nathan asked. "The kind that involves getting my daughter out of Florida tonight." A pause. "What did you do?" "The right thing. But it's going to get messy." "How messy?" "Cartel messy." Nathan swore. "You've got to be kidding me. I wish I was." Tyler glanced at Aria. "Can you take her or not?" Another pause. Then, "Yeah, I can take her." "Where are you?" Tyler gave him the location. "How fast can you get here?" 2 hours. "Maybe less. Make it less." "Vaughn," Nathan said, his voice serious now. "What are you planning?" "Finishing this. Alone?" "That's the plan. That's a suicide plan." "It's the only plan I've got." Tyler ended the call and pocketed the phone. Aria looked at him with those big, knowing eyes. "You're going after her, aren't you?" "Yeah, because it's the right thing to do." Tyler hesitated. The truth was more complicated than that. Yes, it was the right thing. But it was also personal now. They'd taken his daughter. They'd threatened everything he built. And somewhere in the chaos of the last 3 days, Josie Warren had stopped being just another client and had become something else. Someone worth fighting for. "Yeah, Bud," he said finally. "Because it's the right thing." They waited in the truck. Tyler cleaned his wound with a first aid kit from the glove box, wrapping it with gauze. Aria watched in silence, her expression unreadable. At 11:47 p.m., a black sedan pulled up behind them. Nathan Scott stepped out. He was in his 50s now, gray hair cropped military short, wearing jeans and a windbreaker that didn't quite hide the sidearm at his hip. He walked to the truck and knocked on the window. Tyler rolled it down. "You look like hell," Nathan said. "Feel worse." Nathan's gaze shifted to Aria. "Hey, kiddo. Remember me?" Aria nodded. "You brought me a stuffed bear when I was little." "That's right." "Still got it?" "It's at home." "Good." Nathan opened the passenger door. "Come on, let's get you somewhere safe." Aria didn't move. She looked at Tyler. "Promise you'll come back. I promise." "You promised before, and you almost didn't." Tyler's chest tightened. "This time's different." "How?" "Because this time I know what I'm fighting for." Aria hugged him fiercely, and Tyler held her like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to the world. Then she let go and climbed out of the truck. Nathan walked her to the sedan, his hand on her shoulder. Then he returned to Tyler's window. "You need backup," Nathan said. "Can't involve you in this. You already did." "Nathan, shut up and listen." Nathan leaned against the truck. "I made some calls on the way over. El Escorpion is the real deal. Rafael Dominguez, Mexican cartel lieutenant operating out of Miami, runs kidnapping, extortion, arms dealing. He's got connections in the police, the docks, even City Hall. How do I find him?" "You don't. He finds you." Nathan pulled out a folded piece of paper and handed it through the window. "But if you're stupid enough to go after him, this is where his men hang out. Warehouse in Alapata. Abandoned meatpacking plant. Heavy security. Cameras. Guards. The works." Tyler unfolded the paper. "An address and a crude map. How current is this?" "As of 2 hours ago." "Thank you." Nathan straightened. "Don't thank me yet. Odds are you're going to die. Probably. And you're doing it anyway." Tyler met his eyes. "She trusted me. I'm not walking away from that." Nathan shook his head, but there was respect in his expression. "You always were the most stubborn bastard I ever served with." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Vaughn, if you make it out, call me. I'll buy you a beer. And if I don't, I'll make sure Aria knows you died doing something that mattered." Tyler nodded. "That's all I can ask." Nathan drove away with Aria in the back seat. She pressed her face to the window, watching until the truck disappeared from view. Tyler sat alone in the silence. His shoulder ached. His body was running on adrenaline and muscle memory. But his mind was clear. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911 again. 911, what's your emergency?" "I need to report a kidnapping," Tyler said calmly. "Josie Warren, CEO of Helix Dynamics. Taken from the Coral Gables Marina approximately 90 minutes ago by members of a Mexican cartel." "Sir, can you provide your name and location?" "My name is Tyler Vaughn. I'm a former Navy SEAL, and I'm going to get her back." He hung up before the dispatcher could respond. Then he started the truck and drove toward Alapata, toward the warehouse. Toward a fight he probably wouldn't survive, but he drove anyway, because some promises were worth dying for. Tyler parked the truck 4 blocks from the warehouse and approached on foot. The neighborhood was industrial decay, cracked pavement, rusted fences, and buildings that looked like they'd been abandoned since the 80s. But Tyler knew better. This kind of neglect was often strategic, a disguise for operations that thrived in shadows. The warehouse Nathan had marked was a 3-story concrete structure with boarded windows and graffiti-covered walls. But the fence surrounding it was new, topped with razor wire. Security cameras perched at each corner, their red indicator lights blinking steadily. And parked in the rear lot were 3 black SUVs, the same models from the marina. Tyler circled the perimeter, staying low, counting exits and entry points. 2 main doors, 1 loading bay, and a fire escape on the east side. 4 visible guards, probably more inside. Standard cartel security for a high-value asset. Josie was in there. He was sure of it, but something nagged at him. The attack at the marina had been coordinated, professional. Too professional for standard cartel work. And the men who'd grabbed Aria hadn't acted like kidnappers looking for ransom. They'd acted like soldiers following orders. Someone had paid a lot of money to take Josie Warren. The question was why. Tyler pulled out his phone and opened a secure browser, rooting through 3 VPN layers before accessing a private intelligence database Nathan had given him access to years ago. He searched for El Escorpion, Rafael Dominguez. The file was extensive. 42 years old. Former federal turned cartel enforcer. Specialized in high-profile kidnappings and corporate extortion. Current operations centered in Miami and Cancun. Known associates included corrupt officials, mercenaries, and Tyler's blood ran cold. A former CIA operative named Garrett Flynn. Tyler clicked on Flynn's profile. The photo showed a man in his 50s, sharp eyes, military bearing, the kind of face that blended into crowds. Flynn had been dishonorably discharged from the agency 5 years ago for running unauthorized operations in Central America. Since then, he'd gone private, offering his skills to the highest bidder. And according to the file, Flynn had been spotted in Miami 3 days ago. Tyler's mind raced. This wasn't just a cartel kidnapping. This was something bigger. Someone had hired Flynn to coordinate the grab. Someone with resources, connections, and a reason to want Josie Warren disappeared. He opened another search, this time for Helix Dynamics. Josie's company had been in the news lately, not just for its encryption technology, but for a whistleblower lawsuit filed 2 months ago. The plaintiff, a former board member named Patrick Bowen, had accused the company of fraud, claiming Helix's encryption software had backdoors that allowed government surveillance. The case had been dismissed, but the damage was done. Helix's stock had tanked. Investors were nervous, and Josie had been called to testify before Congress. Tyler sat back against the chain-link fence, pieces clicking into place. Someone wanted Josie silenced. Not killed, silenced. A high-profile execution would draw too much attention. But a kidnapping, blamed on cartels, would be perfect. Plausible deniability. Tragic accident. No body, no answers. And if Josie disappeared, Bowen could swoop in, take control of the board, and bury whatever secrets Helix was hiding. Tyler's jaw tightened. He pulled up Bowen's file. 58 years old. Harvard MBA. Former venture capitalist. Current board member of 6 tech companies. Net worth estimated at $400 million. And, buried in the financial disclosures, a shell company with ties to Flynn's operations. There it was. The connection. Tyler stood and pocketed his phone. He needed proof. But more importantly, he needed Josie alive. He moved toward the warehouse, staying in the shadows, avoiding the camera sight lines. The fire escape was rusted, but functional. He climbed slowly, testing each step for noise. At the second-floor landing, he found a window that had been pried open, probably by squatters. He slipped inside. The interior was dark, lit only by emergency lights that cast long shadows. Tyler moved through this space like a ghost, his footsteps silent on the concrete floor. He heard voices below, speaking Spanish. He crept to the railing and looked down. The main floor had been converted into a makeshift command center. Folding tables covered with laptops. Surveillance monitors showing feeds from around the city. And in the center, tied to a chair, was Josie. She looked roughed up. A bruise forming on her cheek, her clothes torn. But she was conscious, defiant. 3 men stood around her. One of them, Rafael Dominguez, El Scorpion himself. Tall, lean, with a scorpion tattoo on his neck and eyes like black ice. And standing beside him, arms crossed, was Garrett Flynn. Tyler's hand moved to the Glock at his waist. He could take them from here. 3 shots, maybe 4. But there were at least 6 other men scattered throughout the warehouse. And 1 stray bullet could hit Josie. He needed a better plan. Flynn was speaking, his voice calm and businesslike. The buyer wants confirmation she's alive. Send the video. One of the men held up a phone, filming Josie. She stared directly into the camera, her expression cold. Whatever Patrick is paying you, I'll double it. Flynn smiled. It's not about money, Ms. Warren. It's about control. Your encryption technology is too dangerous. Too disruptive. The people I work for can't allow it to reach full deployment. So you're going to kill me. Eventually. But first, you're going to transfer the source code. All of it. And then you're going to disappear. I'll never give it to you. Flynn shrugged. We'll see. He nodded to Dominguez, who stepped forward and backhanded Josie across the face. Her head snapped to the side, blood trickling from her lip. Tyler's vision went red. He moved before he could think, vaulting over the railing and dropping 20 feet to the floor below. He landed in a crouch, rolled, and came up firing. The first shot took out the man holding the phone. The second hit Dominguez in the shoulder. The third missed Flynn, who dove behind a table. Chaos erupted. Men shouted, drew weapons, scattered for cover. Tyler grabbed Josie's chair and tipped it backward, dragging her behind a stack of crates. Tyler. She gasped, stay down. He cut the ropes binding her wrists with his knife. Can you run? Yes, then run. East exit, now. Josie didn't argue. She took off, sprinting toward the fire door. Tyler laid down covering fire, 3 controlled bursts that sent the cartel men diving. Then he followed, reloading on the move. They burst through the fire door into the alley. Gunfire erupted behind them, bullets sparking off metal and concrete. Tyler grabbed Josie's hand and ran, pulling her through the maze of alleys and side streets dot behind them. Engines roared to life. The SUVs were mobilizing. Tyler pulled Josie into a recessed doorway, pressing her against the wall. Listen to me. Patrick Bowen hired Flynn to take you. This isn't just about ransom. It's about your technology. Josie's eyes widened. Patrick? But he was trying to steal your company. And he's willing to kill you to do it. How do you know this? Because I used to hunt people like him for a living. Tyler checked his weapon. 4 rounds left. Not enough. We need to get to the police. Somewhere public. Somewhere they can't finish this. They'll kill us before we get there, not if we move smart. Tyler led her through the industrial district, moving fast but staying off main roads. The SUVs prowled nearby, searchlights sweeping alleys. Twice they had to hide, pressed against walls, barely breathing. As cartel soldiers passed within feet, they reached a main boulevard just as dawn broke over Miami. Traffic was starting to pick up. Tyler flagged down a taxi. Brickell Police Station, he said, climbing in with Josie. Fast. The driver, an older man with kind eyes, nodded and pulled into traffic. Tyler watched through the rear window. One of the SUVs had spotted them and was weaving through cars, trying to catch up. Faster, Tyler said. The driver pressed the gas. They made it 6 blocks before the SUV rammed them from behind. The taxi spun, tires screaming, and slammed into a parked car. The impact threw Tyler against the door. Pain exploded in his ribs. Josie grabbed his arm. "Tyler, we have to move." He nodded, dazed, and kicked the door open. They stumbled out onto the sidewalk. The SUV screeched to a halt. 4 men jumped out. Tyler raised his weapon, but the slide locked back. Empty. He was out of bullets, out of options, and out of time. Then sirens screamed to life. Police cars, at least 6 of them, came roaring down the boulevard. Lights flashing. The cartel men hesitated, then retreated to the SUV and sped off. Tyler and Josie collapsed against each other as the police surrounded them. Weapons drawn, shouting orders. Tyler raised his hand slowly. "My name is Tyler Vaughn, and we need to talk to someone in charge. Right now." The FBI safe house overlooked Biscayne Bay, a nondescript 2-story building with reinforced windows and security cameras at every corner. Tyler stood on the balcony, watching the morning sun climb higher, his ribs taped where the taxi crash had bruised them. His shoulder was properly bandaged now, stitched by a bureau medic who'd asked no questions. Inside, Josie sat at the kitchen table with 2 federal agents, going through her statement for the 3rd time. Tyler had given his account separately, leaving out only the parts that would raise uncomfortable questions about his methods. The agents had been skeptical at first, until they'd pulled Patrick, Bowen's financial records, and found the paper trail leading to Garrett Flynn. Now, it was a matter of building a case that would stick. Tyler heard footsteps behind him. Josie stepped onto the balcony. Wrapped in an oversized FBI windbreaker, her hair pulled back. Exhaustion etched into every line of her face. "They're done with me for now," she said quietly. "Good." She stood beside him at the railing, close but not touching. "I never said thank you. You don't have to." "Yes, I do." She turned to face him. "You saved my life, twice, and you put your daughter in danger to do it." Tyler's jaw tightened. "Aria's safe now. That's what matters. Where is she?" "North Carolina. With someone I trust." "When will you see her again?" "When this is over." Josie studied him, her eyes searching his face. "You're not just a chef, are you?" Tyler met her gaze. "I used to be something else. But that was a long time ago. What changed?" "I became a father." He turned back to the water. "After Aria's mother died, I couldn't do both. Couldn't be the person I was and the parent she needed. So I chose. Do you regret it?" "Never." He paused. "But sometimes the person I used to be comes back. When it needs to." Josie reached out and touched his arm gently. "I'm glad it did." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the past 2 days settling between them like fog. Tyler could feel her warmth beside him, could smell the faint scent of her perfume mixed with fear and sweat and survival. "I was married once," Josie said suddenly. 5 years ago. He was a venture capitalist. Charming, successful, everything I thought I wanted. She laughed bitterly. "Turned out he wanted my company more than he wanted me. When I refused to let him control Helix, he left. His loss." "Was it?" She looked at Tyler. "I threw myself into work after that. Built walls so high nobody could climb them. Told myself I was safer alone." She paused. "But when those men grabbed me, when I thought I was going to die, all I could think was how empty my life had become. How I'd spent years building an empire, but forgot to build a life." Tyler turned to face her fully. "You can still build it, can I?" Her voice cracked. "Patrick was my mentor. Someone I trusted for over a decade. And he tried to have me killed. That's on him, not you. But I should have seen it. Should have known." "You can't predict betrayal," Tyler said quietly. "You can only decide what to do after." Josie's eyes glistened. "What do I do after?" Tyler reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You survive. You rebuild. And you trust that not everyone is looking to hurt you. Can I trust you? Yeah, he said. You can trust me. She leaned into him then, her forehead resting against his chest. Tyler wrapped his arms around her, holding her as she finally let herself break. She didn't sob, didn't make a sound, just shook silently as the terror and exhaustion and betrayal poured out of her. Tyler held her until she stopped shaking, until her breathing steadied, until she pulled back and looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. I don't know what happens next, she whispered. Neither do I, but we'll figure it out. Together? Do I, but we'll figure it out. Together? Tyler smiled, small and genuine. Yeah, together. That evening, after the agents had left and the safe house had gone quiet, Tyler found Josie in the living room, staring at her laptop. She'd showered and changed into borrowed clothes, jeans, and a simple t-shirt that made her look younger, less guarded. Can't sleep? He asked. She shook her head. Too much in my head. Tyler sat beside her on the couch. Want to talk about it? I keep thinking about what Flynn said. About my encryption technology being too dangerous. Too disruptive. She turned the laptop toward him, showing lines of code. This is what they wanted. The source code for Helix's quantum encryption protocol. It's unbreakable. Completely secure. And that scares people. Powerful people. People who rely on being able to access information, to control narratives, to spy on whoever they want. She closed the laptop. I built this to protect people, to give them privacy in a world that wants to strip it away. But now I'm wondering if the cost is too high. The cost of doing the right thing is always high, Tyler said. That doesn't make it wrong. Josie looked at him. How do you stay so sure? I'm not. But I know that walking away because something's hard is how bad people win. She reached over and took his hand, lacing her fingers through his. Thank you. For what? For reminding me why I started this in the first place. 3 weeks later, Patrick Bowen was arrested at his estate in Palm Beach. The FBI had built an airtight case. Wire transfers to Flynn's shell companies. Encrypted communications ordering the kidnapping. And testimony from 2 of Dominguez's men who'd flipped in exchange for reduced sentences. The media called it the biggest tech conspiracy since the ran Ost. Tyler watched the news. Coverage from Josie's penthouse in downtown Miami. Aria curled up beside him on the couch, her head resting on his shoulder. She'd returned from North Carolina 2 days earlier, thinner and quieter than before, but whole. Nathan had kept her safe, kept her busy with schoolwork and movies and long talks about courage. Is it really over? Aria asked, watching Bowen being led away in handcuffs. The main part, Tyler said. There'll be trials, hearings, legal stuff. But the danger's gone. Josie emerged from her office, phone in hand, looking exhausted but relieved. That was my lawyer. The board voted unanimously to remove Patrick and revoke his shares. Helix is secure. That's good news, Tyler said. It is. She sat in the chair across from them. But it doesn't fix everything. Half my investors pulled out after the kidnapping went public. The stock's still tanking. And Congress is pushing harder than ever for backdoor access to the encryption. What are you going to do? Fight. She met his eyes. Because you were right. Walking away isn't an option. Aria looked up at Josie. Are you going to be okay? Josie smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. I think so. Especially with friends like you and your dad. The word friends hung in the air, too small for what they'd become, but too soon for anything else. Tyler didn't push. They had time now. Time to figure out what this was, what it could be. The trial started in early autumn. Tyler testified. His military record entered into evidence despite his reluctance. The defense tried to paint him as a vigilante, a violent ex-soldier who'd escalated the situation. But the jury saw through it. They saw a father protecting his daughter, a man keeping his word. Garrett Flynn was sentenced to 25 years. Rafael Dominguez got life without parole. And Patrick Bowen, facing charges of conspiracy to commit kidnapping and attempted murder, accepted a plea deal, 15 years in federal prison, and full restitution to Helix Dynamics. The day the verdict came down, Josie stood on the courthouse steps. Cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. She looked calm, composed, every inch the CEO who'd refused to break. "Justice was served today," she said into the microphones. "But this case is about more than one corrupt man. It's about the importance of protecting innovation, of refusing to let fear dictate progress. Helix Dynamics will continue to develop encryption technology that puts privacy back in the hands of the people. And we won't apologize for it." Tyler watched from the back of the crowd, Aria's hand in his. He saw the strength in Josie's posture, the fire in her eyes, and felt something shift in his chest. Pride, maybe. Or something deeper. As the press conference ended, Josie found them in the crowd. She knelt in front of Aria. "Thank you for being patient with all of this." "It's okay," Aria said. "Dad says justice takes time. Your dad's a smart man." "I know." Aria grinned. "Are you coming to dinner tonight?" "Dad's making his special pasta." Josie glanced at Tyler, a question in her eyes. He nodded. "I'd love to," she said. That night, in Tyler's modest apartment in Coconut Grove, the three of them sat around the small dining table, eating pasta and garlic bread and laughing at Aria's stories about her time in North Carolina. The conversation flowed easily, naturally, like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. After dinner, Aria excused herself to do homework, leaving Tyler and Josie alone with the dishes. "She's amazing," Josie said. "Drying a plate, she is. You've done an incredible job raising her." Tyler set down the dish he was washing and turned to face her. "Josie, I need to say something." She set down the towel. "Okay. These past few weeks, getting to know you, seeing you fight for what you believe in, it's reminded me that there's more to life than just surviving. And I think maybe you and I could." Josie closed the distance and kissed him. It was gentle, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. Tyler's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, and for the first time in years, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. When they finally pulled apart, Josie smiled. "I think so too." 4 months after the trial, Josie stood in front of a repurposed warehouse in Overtown, one of Miami's most underserved neighborhoods. The building had been abandoned for years, but now its windows gleamed, its walls freshly painted. A sign above the entrance read, "The ARIA Initiative, Technology Education for All." Tyler stood beside her, Aria between them, all three holding a ceremonial pair of scissors. News cameras filmed as local kids and their families gathered, curious and hopeful. "This center," Josie began, her voice carrying across the crowd, "exists because someone showed me that real strength isn't about building walls. It's about opening doors." She glanced at Tyler. "The ARIA Initiative will provide free coding classes, cybersecurity training, and technology resources to young people who've been locked out of the digital revolution. Because everyone deserves access to the tools that can change their lives." The crowd applauded. Aria squeezed Josie's hand. "Can I cut it?" "Together," Josie said. They cut the ribbon as one, and the doors opened. Inside, rows of computers hummed, ready to be used. Volunteers, many of them Helix employees, stood ready to teach. And in the back, Tyler had set up a small commercial kitchen where he'd teach culinary classes, giving kids another path forward. Over the following weeks, the center became a hub. Kids came after school, staying late to learn Python and JavaScript. Parents attended workshops on digital literacy. And on Saturdays, Tyler's kitchen filled with the smell of fresh bread and laughter as he taught teenagers how to cook. How to take raw ingredients and create something nourishing. Josie threw herself into the work with the same intensity she'd given Helix, but now there was joy in it, purpose beyond profit. She mentored young women interested in STEM, sharing her story of triumph and betrayal and resilience. One evening, after the center had closed, Josie found Tyler cleaning up the kitchen. Aria was at a friend's house for a sleepover, a rare moment of privacy. "You're good at this," Josie said, watching him wipe down counters with military precision. "It's just cleaning. I mean teaching. Connecting with these kids." Tyler shrugged. "They remind me why I left the teens. Why I chose a different life." Josie stepped into the kitchen, leaning against the counter. "Do you miss it? The action, the adrenaline?" "Sometimes. But then I remember what I have now." He looked at her. "What we have." She smiled. "We make a good team. We do." "I've been thinking," Josie said carefully, "about expanding the initiative. Opening centers in other cities. Creating a national network. That's ambitious. I learned from the best." She paused. "But I can't do it alone. I need a partner. Someone I trust completely." Tyler set down the towel. "Josie, I'm not asking you to give up cooking or stop being Aria's dad. I'm asking you to help me build something that matters. Something that lasts." Tyler studied her face, seeing the hope and vulnerability there. "What does that look like?" "I don't know exactly. But I know it involves you, me, and Aria. A family, maybe. If you want that." Tyler crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. "I want that. More than anything." She kissed him, deep and certain, and in that moment, everything else fell away. 1 year after the kidnapping, Tyler, Josie, and Aria stood on the deck of a small sailboat, gliding across Biscayne Bay at sunset. The water was calm, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. Aria sat at the bow, her feet dangling over the edge, completely at peace. "She's happy," Josie said, standing close to Tyler, their shoulders touching. "She is," Tyler agreed. "We all are." Josie turned to look at him, the golden light catching in her eyes. "I never thought I'd get here. After Patrick, after everything, I thought I was broken. You were never broken. Just hurt. There's a difference?" "Just hurt. There's a difference?" "Yeah, broken things can't be fixed. Hurt things heal." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "You're very wise for a chef. I had good teachers." They sailed in comfortable silence, the city skyline fading behind them. Aria called back, "Can we do this every week?" "If you want," Tyler said. "I want." Josie smiled. "Then we will." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Tyler thought about the journey that had brought them here. The violence, the fear, the moments when everything could have fallen apart. But also the courage, the trust, the slow building of something real. "I used to think protecting people meant keeping them at a distance," Tyler said quietly. "That if I didn't let anyone close, they couldn't get hurt. And now? Now I know that real protection is being there. Showing up. Choosing to stay even when it's hard." Josie lifted her head and kissed him softly. "I'm glad you stayed. Me too." Aria turned around, grinning. "Are you two being mushy again?" "Maybe," Josie laughed. "Gross," Aria said, but she was smiling. As darkness fell and stars began to appear, they turned the boat back toward shore. The Aria Initiative's lights were visible from the water, a beacon in the neighborhood. Tomorrow, Tyler would teach a morning cooking class. Josie would meet with investors about expanding to Atlanta. Aria would go to school, do homework, live the normal life her father had fought so hard to give her. But tonight, they were just 3 people on a boat, bound together by choice and circumstance and love. Tyler looked at Josie, at Aria, at the life they'd built from the wreckage of violence and betrayal. It wasn't perfect. There were still hard days, still moments of doubt. But it was theirs, and it was enough. "Thank you," Josie whispered. "For what?" "For showing me that starting over doesn't mean starting alone." Tyler squeezed her hand. "We're in this together. All three of us, always?" "Always." The boat cut through the dark water, carrying them home. 2 years had passed since that night on Biscayne Bay, and the morning sun streamed through the windows of the house in Coral Gables that Tyler, Josie, and Aria now called home. It wasn't ostentatious. Josie had learned that bigger wasn't always better. But it was warm, filled with mismatched furniture, Aria's artwork on the walls, and the constant smell of something delicious coming from the kitchen. Tyler stood at the stove, flipping pancakes while Aria set the table. She was 12 now, taller, her curly hair longer, and her confidence had bloomed in ways that made his chest ache with pride. She wore a t-shirt from the Aria Initiative's coding camp and hummed while folding napkins. 3 or 4 pancakes, Bug?" Tyler asked. 4. "I have soccer practice after school, and I'm starving already." Josie emerged from the home office she'd converted from the spare bedroom, laptop in hand, wearing jeans and one of Tyler's old Navy t-shirts that she'd claimed as her own. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, reading glasses perched on her nose. "Morning," she said, kissing Tyler's cheek before ruffling Aria's hair. "Morning, Mom," Aria said absently. The word so natural, now that none of them remembered when she'd started saying it. They'd made it official 8 months ago. A small ceremony on the beach with Nathan Scott as best man and Aria as maid of honor. No press, no fanfare, just the 3 of them and a handful of people who mattered. Josie had taken both their last names, Josie Warren Vaughn, and Aria had been given the choice. She'd chosen Vaughn Warren, wanting to carry both of them with her. Tyler plated the pancakes, and they sat together at the breakfast table, the morning ritual they'd fought so hard to have. Aria doused hers in syrup while Josie scrolled through her phone. "The Seattle Center opens next month," Josie said. "That'll make 12 cities total." "That's incredible," Tyler said. "We got the grant approval for the scholarship program, too. Full rides for 50 students to study cybersecurity at state universities." Aria looked up. "Can I apply when I'm older?" Josie smiled. "You're already on the list." "That's nepotism," Aria said. Grinning. "That's family," Josie corrected Dot after breakfast. Tyler drove Aria to school in the same old truck he'd kept from his chef days, refusing to replace it despite Josie's offers. Some things were worth holding on to. "Dad," Aria said as they pulled up to the drop-off lane, "can I ask you something?" "Always. Do you ever think about that night when the bad people took Josie?" Tyler's hands tightened on the steering wheel. They'd been honest with Aria about what happened, age-appropriately honest, but they didn't talk about it often. "Sometimes," he said. "Why? I had a nightmare about it last night. That they took her again and you couldn't save her." Tyler turned to face his daughter. "Aria, look at me. That's over. Those people are in prison. You, me, and Josie are safe. But what if something else happens? What if someone else tries to hurt us? Then we'll handle it, together." He squeezed her hand. "Being brave doesn't mean you're never scared. It means you don't let the fear stop you from living." Aria nodded slowly. "Like how you were scared but you saved her anyway." "Exactly like that." She hugged him tight before grabbing her backpack. "Love you, Dad. Love you too, Bug." That evening, after Aria had gone to bed, Tyler and Josie sat on their back patio, watching fireflies dance across the yard. Josie's head rested on Tyler's shoulder, his arm wrapped around her waist. "Nathan called today," Tyler said. "He's retiring from consulting. Wants to know if we need a security director for the initiative, do we?" "Probably. We're getting big enough that we need someone who knows what they're doing." Josie tilted her head up to look at him. What do you think? I think Nathan deserves a job where he doesn't get shot at. She laughed softly. Fair point. Tell him yes. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only came from truly knowing someone. Tyler thought about the man he'd been 3 years ago. Alone except for his daughter, hiding from a past that haunted him. Convinced that connection meant vulnerability. He'd been so wrong. You know what's funny? Josie said. What? I spent my whole adult life building walls, protecting myself, proving I didn't need anyone. And then a cartel kidnapped me, and I found out that the strongest thing I could do was let someone in. Tyler kissed the top of her head. Best kidnapping ever? She swatted his chest, laughing. That's terrible, but true. Yeah, she admitted, snuggling closer. True. Above them, stars emerged one by one, pinpricks of light in the vast darkness. Inside the house, Arya slept peacefully, her nightmares chased away by the knowledge that she was loved and protected. And on the patio, 2 people who'd survived the worst sat together, building a future neither had dared to imagine. Tyler had learned that being a protector didn't mean standing between loved ones and the world. It meant standing beside them, facing whatever came together. And Josie had learned that strength wasn't about never breaking. It was about letting the right people help you heal, Tyler. Josie whispered, yeah? Thank you for not walking away. That night at the marina, you could have just saved Arya and disappeared. That was never an option. Why not? He turned to face her, his hand cupping her cheek. Because some people are worth fighting for. Worth risking everything for. You were one of them from the moment you trusted me enough to let me help. Tears glistened in her eyes. I love you. I love you too. They stayed there under the stars, 2 survivors who'd found each other in the chaos, who'd built something beautiful from the broken pieces. The Arya initiative would continue to grow, changing lives across the country. Tyler would keep teaching kids that cooking was about more than food. It was about nourishment and care. And Arya would grow up knowing that family wasn't just about blood. It was about choice, commitment, and showing up every single day. The night air carried the scent of jasmine from Josie's garden. Somewhere in the distance, the ocean whispered against the shore. And in that quiet moment, with nothing left to prove and no one left to fight, they simply existed, together, safe, home, because that's what heroes do after the battle ends. They live, they love, they build something worth protecting. And they never ever take it for granted. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.